Hello everyone and welcome to this Shadow Step build guide. My name is Averlin and the focus of this video is explaining how to teleport all over your screen with no cooldown while dealing massive amounts of damage. I also have a full written guide over at maxroll.gg. You can find the link to it in the description below. As for most Season 9 rogue builds, there are currently two popular variations of Shadow Step. One is a variant focusing on Shadow Clone and you dealing damage, while the other focuses on dealing damage through Asher Wrath and other elemental surge effects. The two variations play the same way and share a lot of the problems that we covered in our Dance of Nice build guide, meaning that we need to find a way to make Shadow Step have no cooldown, we need to reset Shadow Clone without having typical access to energy depletion, we need it to be simple to play, both offensively and defensively, preferably if we can. And we wanted to farm T4 content with ease, including killing bosses like T4 Belial. For this build archetype to function, Shadow Step must be below 3 seconds cooldown for the passive Disciplined Shadow to reset it with each cast. We can reach this level of cooldown reduction through many means, such as the mythic unique Harlequin's Crest, the unique Assassin's Stride, Shadow Step cooldown reduction tempering, Mobility cooldown reduction Paragon nodes, and the seasonal gem Illuminate Eye. Both variations make use of a combination of these cooldown reduction sources, but you may have to be more flexible to get started based on the items that drop for you while you progress through the game. The guide covers the most ideal choices to deal the most damage, but that does not make the other options terrible. If you're missing a little bit of Shadow Step cooldown, change one of your Shadow Clone cooldown reduction tempers for a Shadow Step cooldown reduction temper instead. Because Shadow Step doesn't cost any energy normally, we can only gain access to certain multipliers and solutions by turning to our favorite rune word Quacks in order to spend our energy. We combine this with the Yule rune, as Shadow Step has a short animation, thus allowing us to trigger Quacks roughly every 2 seconds. You can combine it with other rune words, such as Money or Ahu, depending on the runes that have dropped for you so far, but they will have less relative uptime than combining it with Yule. Since we're now spending energy, this gives us access to preparation, which will now reset our Shadow Clone very quickly, on top of getting benefits from other energy spending mechanics, such as Second Wind and Ring of Starless Skies. You want to aim to proc preparation frequently enough so that you can cast Shadow Clone every 8 seconds to maintain the powerful damage buff through No Witness and Vehement Brawler. The Shadow Step rotation is identical for both variants as they have the same core functionality. Both variants utilize the buff trifecta of Caltrops, Poison Trap, and Smoke Grenade to amplify the damage versus elites and boss enemies. This means our rotation looks roughly like this. We cast Shadow Clone to activate our buffs, followed by Caltrops, Poison Trap, Smoke Grenade, and then finally we spam Shadow Step. All of these damage buffs have different timers, so you have to refresh them in an order that makes sense. No Witness has a 10-second duration, which means that it lasts the longest. Poison Trap has a 9-second duration, Vehement Brawler 8 seconds, Caltrop 7, and Smoke Grenade 5 seconds. The most important buff of these to maintain is Caltrops, as casting this before the duration has run out means that you maintain the ramping damage buff at maximum instead of needing it to ramp up again. Whenever you don't have to refresh a buff, you simply hold down Shadow Step. A quick note on Poison Trap is that we go Trap Arm Time Reduction Tempering on Pants in combination with the Spring-loaded Paragon node on the Deadly Ambush Paragon board to immediately arm the Poison Traps to make the gameplay much more snappy. On the left, you can see the normal Shadow Step in action, while the right highlights the Asher Wrath variation. As you can see, the builds play basically the same way with the same abilities on the bar. You basically just maintain your buffs and hold down Shadow Step the entire time, while occasionally dodging with dash just to reposition. The Asher Wrath variation is stronger due to Shadow Clone being nerfed in Season 9 and due to having higher base damage. The normal variant, however, uses momentum, which makes it more durable than the Asher Wrath version. All in all, both of these variants can clear everything in the game, and I've personally done Pit tier 90 piloting both builds. In content like the Pit, we can see that the movement can be a bit stuttery depending on how quickly you can target enemies that are ahead of you. I will admit that I am pretty slow at this, so the gameplay is much smoother for someone who is faster at targeting other enemies. For times when there are no nearby enemies, you simply use dash to quicker traverse the map. For Pit and other content with plenty of enemies, we utilize the Cry rune to group up everything into the Shadow Trap spam. You can change this rune against bosses to something like Thule, or Vex, depending on what you have access to, but all of them roughly averages to 15% damage increase. In terms of defensive power, we want it to be as automatic as possible to make the gameplay as smooth as possible. Both variants use very similar unique items and aspects, and the only real defensive option we can slot in is the Umbrous aspect. We do this to automatically gain Dark Shroud while we're casting Shadow Step. Apart from this, by using the Quax rune, we spend enough energy to maintain a permanent barrier from second wind without having to think about it at all. The defensive power differ between the two variants because Azure Wrath can afford to run Victimized for more damage scaling, while the normal variant uses Momentum due to its synergy with the aspect Stall and Vigor. If you feel that you're too squishy playing the Azure Wrath variant, you can use the Momentum key passive for that variant as well, it's just at the cost of a little bit of damage. The main difference between the two variants is actually how they scale their damage. The Azure Wrath variant focuses on generic scaling, such as the Conceited aspect, the Vehement Brawler aspect, the unique Love's Fist of Fate, and other generic sources to amplify the elemental surge damage in the kit. Unique to Season 9, however, is that we have access to burning damage through the infusion Smoldering Ember. This allows us to use the unique Love's Frostburn. The reason we do not use Fist of Fate like the other Azure Wrath builds is because Shadow Step has a very high lucky hit chance baseline, and we simply waste the added lucky hit chance on Fist of Fate. Do note that one of the largest damage boosts for this variant comes from the passive Alchemical Advantage, as Azure Wrath and all Elemental Surge procs scale with attack speed and lucky hit, making this a very natural choice for the build. Do get this on your Amulet before any other stat, as it's highly gonna impact your damage output. The other massive damage boost is masterworking any lucky hit deals damage sources you have in your gear, such as on your Frostburn, your ranged weapon, or Azure Wrath itself. The normal variant scales the damage on Shadow Step through a combination of either boosting Shadow Step itself or the Shadow Clone. The Shadow Clone scales both through Cutthroat ranks and ultimate damage boosts, such as Apogeic Furor, Grasp of Shadows, Unto Dawn, etc., while Shadow Step is scaled through means like Ravager's Aspects, the Weapon Master ranks on Ashiara's Kanjar, and the Mobility skill ranks on Assassin's Stride. Do note that the Temper Shadow Step cleave is positively bugged for us, and it's permanently making you deal 100% of your Shadow Step damage as cleave damage, no matter what percent the Temper has on it. This means that you do not want to Masterwork crit into Shadow Step cleave at all for the normal variant, and you don't want to do it at all for the Azure Wrath variant, as we're not dealing damage with Shadow Step itself at all for that build anyway. You can find a full list of all skills, Paragon, and aspects over in our written guide over at maxroll.gg. You should go there, as it will have the most up-to-date versions of this build. The rest of this guide shows gameplay footage of the Azure Wrath variation in different content in the game. The two variants play exactly the same, it's just how they deal damage that is the difference. So the Azure Wrath version will actually be a good representation even for the normal version as well. I hope this build guide has helped you understand how Shadow Step works in Season 9. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any questions at any point, hit me up on Maxroll's community Discord or in the comment section below. Thank you, and bye-bye!